Welcome to another episode of the Temple of Grief. And it's kind of curious, interesting. The day after I did the spirit canoe for the folks in Los Angeles who are suffering from the wildfires, some people have lost everything, and just everything. And then the very next day, I ended up getting a cold, and so I missed the episode last week. And at the same time, as I'm filming this right now, there is the inauguration happening. And so today is the World on Fire episode, thinking very much about the folks in LA who have lost everything, and also the folks who have lost everything for other reasons, like, for example, genocide in Gaza, and those who have been forced to leave their homes for whatever reason. Just happens to coincide with what I would call the inauguration of the end, or the funeral of what we are calling the so-called United States of America. So I'm going to focus mostly really on the folks who have lost everything because that is the most pressing concern. We've seen the other dog and pony shit show for a while on its way, and so I'm going to just hold tight on that until next week. But really, the big question is, what do you do when your home and all your earthly possessions are suddenly burned to ashes, whether from bombs or from wildfire? So before we do that, I would like to open sacred space so that we can experience this conversation with our guides and protections here. Ooh, such a mama. To the winds of the south, such a mama, great serpent, come and wrap your coils of light around us. Help us to shed our past the way you shed your skin all at once. Help us to know and recognize the tenderness of our fresh new skin, to hold it gently and compassionately as we walk through the aftermath. Teach us to walk the beauty way, always seeing beauty, beauty in front of us, beauty behind us, beauty below us, beauty above us, beauty on either side of us, beauty within us, and beauty without us. Aho. Ooh, Otorongo. To the winds of the west, Otorongo, mother, sister, jaguar, come into this sacred medicine space and protect us. Protect us from all intrusive energies and entities. Protect us from the ongoing effects of disasters we are facing and the chaos we are navigating. Protect us from any energy that could seep into our world and prevent us from keeping our highest hopes and our highest truth and our highest beauty close to us. Teach us the way beyond death, across the rainbow bridge and back, so that we may walk this path with courage and integrity. Aho. Ooh, Siwarkendi. To the winds of the north, Siwarkente, royal hummingbird, Come into this sacred space and teach us to find stillness even in motion. Help us to find that place of peace and tranquility even as the disasters and chaos loom around us. Teach us to drink only from the nectar of life. And help us to find our mythic map as we rise like the phoenix from the ashes. And we call upon the presence of our ancestors, the wise and loving ancestors of our lineage, the ancestors of the land on which we stand, the ancestors of the land in Southern California. Share with us your wisdom. Share with us the lessons that we need to learn so that we may cultivate a sustainable, vibrant life in the place where destruction has come through. We call upon these ancestors to give us guidance and to give us wisdom so that we may follow our highest destiny. Aho. Great eagle, to the winds of the east, great eagle, condor, urubu, raven, all those who come from the land of the rising sun, the place of our becoming. Come into this sacred space. Be present with us and teach us to fly wing to wing with great spirit. Hold us under your wings when we falter. Teach us to feel that connection to Source, to all that is, and to our communities as we rebuild. Help us to feel that connection to the highest source of love and compassion. Aho. Mother Earth, Pachamama, Mother Gaia, the one who always supports us, from whom all life comes, to whom all life must return. Thank you, Mother, for your loving embrace. Teach us to be in Aini with all creation, with the plant people, with the stone people, with the animal kingdom, and with our fellow two-leggeds. Help us to develop and cultivate a life that is sustainable and protected from these future devastations. Help us to model that right relationship so that all future generations may live abundant, joyful lives. Aho. Father Sun, Grandmother Moon, and all of our Star Nation brothers and sisters, you who are known by 1,000 names and you who are unnameable, watch over us as we move through this earthly realm. Illuminate our pathways so that we may always walk our highest destiny with clarity and purpose. Aho. So, when I was preparing this morning for what I wanted to talk about today, of course I consulted the tarot, and there were a couple of things that came up that I want us to consider. And some of these questions might not be very comfortable questions. Some of these questions might feel a little too tender right now, and if that's true for you, let the question run over you. Maybe jot it down in a notebook for later on the someday I'll get to it when my brain has the capacity to focus on more than just survival, because I know many people are in that survival mode right now because of the devastation that has happened. So just, if it's too much for you, just put a pause button on it. But for those of us who are tangentially involved, I really want us to consider these questions deeply. So The first question that comes up, and this actually relates to both the fires and to the political situation today. People are going to want to blame someone or something for the situation we're in. And the thing about grief is blame doesn't help anyone or anything. It never helps to blame. It just doesn't help anything. And I would actually argue right now that even in our political situation right now, we have the blame. The blame is so very clear, and yet that has not done anything to lead us any closer to justice. Because it's been shown very clearly that our justice system here in the so-called United States of America is not a justice system. It's a punishment system. And it's also very clear that the punishment of crimes is not handled equitably across all communities. And so we have an injustice system right now. And in the case of grieving for what's going on, it actually doesn't even really matter what the blame or justice is, because we need to begin building ourselves from the inside out. And that means also in our communities. So the other thing I want you to be sure of in any kind of grieving situation, yes, blame is not useful, and it is especially not useful to blame yourself. Oftentimes, when we've lost a loved one, one of the phases that we go through is blaming. And we, excuse me, pardon me, still getting over that cold. We all go through it. We all go through the what could I have done differently. We all go through the what did I do wrong. We all go through the why did this happen to me. Blaming, the only thing that blame can even possibly do that is tangentially useful is to help us recognize what brought us here. To help us recognize what brought us collectively to this point. And again, it's not to put blame, because blame is not going to help, but it's to understand how the dynamics have played themselves out, so that as we craft a new reality, we can more consciously choose how we are going to live our world and support our communities around us. And there's a show, I've been sort of binging a lot of documentaries that are about sort of weird cultish behavior or things where the one that I was watching recently was the curious case of, they did the first one, the curious case of Natalia Grace. Now apparently it's a whole series. And the thing that I find so interesting about that particular documentary, The Curious Case of Natalia Grace, is that she was painted by the various people in her lives. She was painted as a monster. She was painted as evil. And boy, those are two words that come up so often when discussing a certain someone who's being re-inaugurated into the office of the President of the so-called United States of America. An evil monster. But here's the thing. No one is completely evil. No one is a complete monster. We might like to think that because that's very easy to just point and say, that's evil, that's different, that's a monster. But that is rooted in judgment. And that is not going to help us. And so this whole idea of like, why are all these weird cultish groups, maybe they've been around the whole time and I'm just barely starting to notice them. But it seems like there are so many more than I ever remember hearing about when I was growing up. And I'm wondering, well, what is it? What is it about our current situation that is compelling us to be drawn towards these cultish personalities, these cultish groups, these cultish behaviors? And part of it is this sort of weird desperation to be saved. This weird desperation to give someone else the power and control over us because we don't think we know how to save ourselves. And for those of you who have lost everything in the fires, I know right now you probably don't feel like you can save yourself. And here's the truth. Not alone. Not alone, you can't. We have to do these things in community. We have to support each other. We have to reach out for help when we need it and accept help when it is offered to us. And I know for those of us who like to be very, self-sufficient, it's hard to receive, and it's especially hard to ask for it. So please, if you are in need, pose the question. I have seen so many people help their communities and help their neighbors as a result of this. So I want us to kind of consider that idea of what is my level of desperation for someone else to save me? And how willing am I to step up and take action to save myself and my community from whatever is going on in the world? So, this right now, when a person has lost everything, it's actually a really important time and an opportunity to ask yourself what's important to you. What is important to you? Because now that you've lost everything, you get to decide consciously. You get to decide consciously what you're going to bring into your life, who you're going to bring closer to you, and how you're going to interact with your community. And a friend of mine who was one of my mentors in grad school, she was my dissertation advisor. She's, off of Meta this week, understandably so, and yet she put this one post about the travesty that is this current re-inauguration that's happening today. And the thing that she talked about that struck me most powerfully is how this situation we're in has been a catalyst for her and also for me, and I think for a lot of people, to find purpose. To ask ourselves, what is my purpose in life? And how can I actively work towards fulfilling that purpose? And it means that things like stuff are really not important. It's not important to have whatever status symbol we may have been seeking before. Because when you are faced with this kind of disaster, if you don't figure out what your purpose is, you are going to be lost. And I think this is a reminder to all of us that the most satisfying and fulfilling lives are purpose-driven lives. So whatever are your talents, whatever are your skills, whatever is the part of you that is most glowing with life, tap into that to see how you are supposed to fulfill your purpose this time around. And one of the other reminders from the tarot this morning about how to approach the situation is to be honest and be frank. But don't let bitterness take over. If you are looking at the world around you and you are seeing things that are harsh or devastating or chaotic, you want to try not to let that get you sunk into despair or animosity or bitterness or cynicism at all. So, for example, we may want to look at the situation and try to speak in facts. I'm one of those people that believes objectivity is not really humanly possible, but we can always aspire towards that, certainly for strategic purposes. And so if you're looking at the situation around you, be honest with yourself and be frank with yourself about what you've lost and what needs to be replaced. Because here's the big question. The big question is, how do we rebuild from utter chaos and devastation? And I think those in LA are going to get some practice at it because we may be facing that on a much larger scale sociopolitically in the next few years. Now, here's the thing that I'm going to tell you. as a shaman and as someone who practices in the shamanic arts, fire is the tool for the most rapid transformation you can imagine. So in some ways, Los Angeles, the city of angels, is about to become the new phoenix, rising from its ashes, to reinvent itself collectively as a community. Fire is also a catalyst for change. When something like this kind of a devastating fire comes in, you have to change. You cannot stay the same, nor would you want to. And for those of you who think, oh, but I had the perfect life, I had everything I wanted, maybe there was something in there that you needed to ask yourself, you know what? Is this my perfect life? Was this everything I wanted? What do I desire in my life? What are the things that are the most deeply important to me? And this is the time to be very purposeful about what you are calling in to replace what you've lost. And one of the other questions that came up when I was looking at the tarot is to ask yourself, what have I taken for granted? Now that you've lost everything, ask yourself, what have I taken for granted? And then, of course, the last thing that the tarot reminded me to ask all of us is, how has greed played a part in my story? I think we look around at unchecked capitalism the way it's running now, and the further that it's going to go, we are heading towards total deregulation if the folks in power have their way. And so in some ways, we're sort of heading back to the old west of there are no protections for anybody, so it's time to get really close to your community and figure out how can you help the people closest to you and the people that matter most to you to have a resilient, meaningful, purposeful life. And then the question that you're going to, well, you're not going to want to ask it, but I invite you to ask this question. And it's going to be a difficult one, but I'm going to invite you to ask it anyway. How has this chaos and destruction bringing me closer to my life's purpose? How is this chaos and destruction bringing me closer to my life's purpose? How has this chaos and destruction brought me closer to my life's purpose? And again, if it seems way too soon to even consider asking that question, just take the time to care for yourself, ask for help if you need it, be loving with the people who are showing you love and support, and show generously love and support to whoever you are able to reach. Start there. Start there. And what I want to do, as we've pondered these questions of the day, for both the literal fires that are consuming Southern California and the socio-political fires that are beginning right now on this inaugural day. We're going to do just a gentle little meditation, and I'm going to guide you through some steps to stimulate the synapses in your brain, mind, body, and spirit to help you call in your future in the highest possible sense that you can co-create it with your community. So let's begin with the breathing. 4-4-4-4 breathing pattern. And so that means we'll inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and do that 4 times. So, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, inhale, Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. And breathing naturally. As you are sitting in this gentle, relaxed, meditative state, I want you to imagine that you are enveloped in this beautiful ball of light, this beautiful, crystal clear ball of light, keeping you safe, holding you tenderly, keeping you comfortable. And I want you to imagine that in this ball of light that holds you tenderly in comfort and safety, imagine that it carries you up high into the sky, just floating on a cloud. And from that beautiful, safe, comfortable ball of light, you can see down to the world below you. You're able to scan your neighborhood, your city, the region where you live, the state, the continent, the shape of the earth. And you were able to see it from that perspective of peace, tranquility. No matter how many fires rage, no matter how many storms rage, you are protected in this ball of light. And as you're sitting there observing, I want you to pose this. I invite you to hold your imagination and your memory as the right and left hands of the weaving that you will do right now. And you can use your memory to think of whatever place you have lost. Remember the place with as many details as you can while they are still fresh in your mind. And imagine, together with those memories, imagine what you're going to call in to replace and how you are going to honor the memory of the place in the new space that you will co-create. Allow your memories and your imagination to be the right and left hands of this process. Allow them to talk to each other, allow them to laugh together, allow them to cry together. And now I want you to think about all the objects, all the things, all the material possessions that you have lost as a part of this fire, destruction, this chaos, this devastation. Which objects are the ones that come to your memory first? And what are those objects related to? Are they connected to your love and your relationships? Are they connected to your professional identity? Are they connected to your hobbies or your creative pursuits? And how can you honor the memory of those possessions that you have lost as you call in and draw to you the new ones to replace them? How can you honor the memory of irreplaceable possessions? The photographs, the relics of relationships that have long since passed. How can you capture those memories and honor them in a way that can carry you through into the future? And as your memories and your imagination are receiving and entertaining all of these images that may be coming through for you, just allow the flow. Don't worry if you want to linger. Just allow a moment of linger and then let it go, and just allow the flow. Allow all these memories and imaginations to just flow through you. And as you are sitting, watching this flow, calling into yourself the way you want to co-create your life, your relationships, your professional life, your creative life, your spiritual life, tap into that sensation in your heart center. And feel it connected also to your belly, your sacral center. And that space in between, your solar plexus, your power center. Feel how the heart and the creative will meet in that power center. And without thinking too much about it, allow yourself to sense in your physical body what your life's purpose will be as you move into this future self. Allow the swirling of those memories and imagination to swirl all the way through from the crown to the root and back up again into the earth and up into the heavens. Feel where it resonates most when you get a sense of what is my life's purpose? And how can I fulfill that purpose? Honoring the memories, using my imagination and my co-creative ability. And just allow those images to flood over you. It's all right if you don't remember them all right now. Just allow them to flow. And when you feel that you have reached a state of completion, grab a journal or a sketchbook or whatever it is that you use for taking notes and documenting your soul's journey in this lifetime. Just make a note of what has come through for you. And when you find that you have a clear idea and you've reached that sense of completion, Allow yourself in that beautiful ball of light to float gently and effortlessly back down to wherever you are in this room, in this space, in this time. Taking a few deep cleansing breaths. Releasing what is no longer serving you. And asking your spirit guides and guardians to show you what are the seeds you are meant to plant now. Thank you for joining me in this temple of grief. Peace to all those who have lost everything in the fires. Aho.